You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Rolling. Don't use any of this. Don't.
Okay, carry 3.
They love you. You know.
This is Princess Leia Organa. You're listening to Planet Leia.
Permission is granted to land on Planet Leia. Brought to you by Fantha Tracks. Here are your hosts, Clair Henry and Johanna Nybelius.
Hello and welcome to Planet Leia. I'd like to wish my co-host, Johanna, Happy International Women's Day. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. Ready to talk some Star Wars again?
Absolutely, let's bring it on. Well, let me tell you that this episode we're focusing on female pilots in Star Wars.
I mean, who hasn't wanted to fly a spaceship?
Well, I'm going to tell you that I have met somebody this weekend who has flown one of those said spaceships that we are extremely jealous about. And her name is Liz Ansari. And she is an actress who starred in The Rise of Skywalker and played a Resistance pilot. Let me tell you all about how that came about. My local Comic Con is 250 meters away from my house. I can literally walk it. And they have a big Comic Con in May. So last weekend, first weekend of March, was CovCon Junior. It was brilliant because it mainly focused on Star Wars actors in support of Kathy Monroe, who people will know from Sci-Fi, and her charity Maggie's House. The plethora of actors at it was incredible, particularly from the Star Wars front. We had Julian Glover, Eileen Roberts, David Stone. A lot of these actors were mainly from the original trilogy. Brian Wheeler, who was a Jawa, Alan Swadin, who played a stormtrooper, Kame Lu, who I interviewed before on Planet Leia, who was Chancellor Palpatine's hand at the back in the auditorium, Ross Speedman, and a whole host of other Star Wars actors. And it was great. It was spread across 2 rooms, quite small and intimate rooms, I'll be honest. What you did was you paid £5 entry, and for that you got entry in. Then you had to pay for your autographs, and a donation of that and the donation of the entry went to Maggie's House. It was great. We had the Joker squad there. They had a couple of Wookiees and some rebel soldiers, some stormtroopers, etc. So the scene was set. Thank you to the very lovely Matthew Rose. I was able to interview Liz, and Liz was fabulous. But the one thing that she didn't deliberately come out and say, so I need to sort of allude to it now, is that she was very wide-ranging about her costume. She's 5'5". That is the minimum requirement for a fighter pilot. If you're less than, if anybody wants to join the cause, you need to be 5'5" or above. So when she was
that must be a change now in the new canon. I mean, in Legends, Jaina Solo was a lot shorter.
Yes, well, I did think that. So I'm thinking that was must have been for the film, or actually what costumes they had available on set that day. I think that was more what it was. So she alluded to the fact that her costume was built for a very small person. But what I think she was alluding to was actually her costume was Kelly Marie Tran, but she couldn't actually say that. So I'm going to say it. And if I'm completely wrong, I apologize, Liz, now, but I think that's what you were alluding to. So we had a great chat.
That's why I get to meet these extras who had small parts because they really like it. I mean, they do this and they learn all about their roles and they know that they meet fans. And in my experience, they are a lot more relaxed than maybe the biggest stars, and the biggest stars have so much other things going on. They're doing it because they think it's fun to meet the fans. I've had so much fun, like on the smaller cons that I've been to.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just lovely. And you can chat to anybody and they're happy for you to take their photographs. They're happy for you to chat away to them. Now, Julian Glover obviously was very popular that day. He was probably the biggest draw in many respects, but it was just lovely. And the organisers were fantastic. It was very well honed routine, considering that they hadn't done it for maybe 2-3 years now because of COVID. And it was great because it was Liz's first ever signing. So she hasn't been to a con before. And I think for her, that was probably a great introduction to it.
I hope she wasn't too overwhelmed, but I mean, if it is a small con, maybe that's a good way to start.
Well, I think she was. I think she was very nervous, to be honest. She's still a working actress and she was going to a job on the following Monday. And obviously you have to do a lot of tests, COVID tests, etc. So she was a little bit worried about that, but she was dying to get to be part of the scene, if that makes sense. Yeah. She said, I've heard so much about it. And I know from the feedback I've got from people who went, they really enjoyed meeting her, chatting to her. So here I am talking to Liz Ansari last Saturday at CovCon. So hi everybody, it's Claire and I'm here at CovCon Junior in Wrighton-on-Dunsmore, and it's great because literally it's 200 metres from my house. So I've been able to walk here today, so it's been very nice for me. I'm joined with Liz Ansari. Today's your first signing, isn't that right, Elizabeth?
Absolutely, and looking forward to it.
It's a bit nervous, isn't it, because we're all back from everything and COVID and we're getting there, but it's lovely, everybody's starting to arrive, so it's looking like it's going to be a good morning. Elizabeth, you played Elna Sibsara. Now, would you like to tell us a little bit about Elna's name and where it actually has come from?
Elna Sibsara is actually an anagram of Liz Ansari. If you juggle your letters around, you'll find that it does actually mean Elizabeth Ansari.
And how did you find out about your name?
In the book. A friend saw it straight away. She said, you know what, that's your name. That's your name jumbled up, and they can see that's obviously you, with a frown on your head, because I had a very serious mission.
So tell us about your character. You are one of the female resistance pilots in The Rise of Skywalker.
I was a veteran pilot. I was there to train up younger pilots and to oversee. But I think a lot of them were overseeing me, being slightly more mature.
Can you tell us about how you got your role? Did you audition or were you approached?
Oh, wow. Well, it was quite by accident. I don't know if I should tell you.
Oh, go on. Come on, this could be a Planet Leia exclusive.
Well, I was a hairdresser. I was a hairdresser for many years. And the job came through and I thought, that's a long time to close my salon. But for some strange reason, I hit the yes button. So anyway, I thought, I won't get anywhere. But then a day later, I got some dates come through for a fitting. And because the production, episode 9, had a code name, I had no idea what it was that I was going for a fitting for. So there I am, trying to get to sleep the night before the fitting, before I've got a 180-mile road trip to Pinewood. When I looked on Facebook and somebody said, what's the codename Trixie stand for? And then somebody promptly replied, Star Wars. Well, I can tell you I didn't get any sleep that night.
I was about to say, how was the sleep then? And how was the journey then, darling?
The journey was, I was very excited. And Pinewood, it was the first time I'd been to Pinewood and it was amazing. It has its own 007 studio, and when I walked into my fitting, there were stormtrooper outfits, highly elevated on shelving, up in this sort of cavernous roof of the studio. I was very, very lucky. I had no idea what it was. I think if I'd have known, I may not have had the courage to go for it.
Oh, it sounds amazing. So was it the suit, the pilot suit that you were putting on that day?
Yes, it was.
And so did you instantly recognise it once it went on?
Well, first of all, can I say that you have to, the minimum you can be is 5'5". And I know, I like to think that I left school at 5'5.5". But I've actually lost an inch, so I was very lucky to be able to fit into that costume the way it should be worn. But I knew it had also been worn by a very small lady of a different nationality, so I hoped I did it proud.
Well, from the photographs that I've seen, you look fantastic in it. And I'm not going to lie, I know that my co-host, Johanna, is going to be very jealous because she too dresses up as a pilot and she loves it and she was very excited that we were chatting today. So, about your time on set then, how many days were you on set?
During the month, the 28 days, I think I was only on set for 15, but it was nice. It was great times when we were there. It was very hectic schedule, constantly active, very, very mobile, running to war, running for days on end. Thankfully, they feed you too.
Well, I would like to think that they did, and the food was all right.
The food, well, I've had better, but we needed something after the running. It was amazing.
What scenes would we see you in?
Well, I am usually in the forest running to the war, but I'm actually a survivor of it as well, so I'm there in the celebrations, but I am slightly camera shy, so you probably only see the derriere.
I like that, the derriere of it. And when you were on set, it looked to me, from what I've heard from other people, that it was great camaraderie and everybody was in good form and good fun and a happy place.
It was amazing, absolutely. I was lucky enough to be with approximately 250 of the most beautiful people you've ever seen in your life. And actually, JJ actually mentioned the fact that there was such an attractive bunch. But amongst them all, these beauties, these gorgeous creatures, there were comedians, there were dancers, musicians, pianists, singers. They were all extremely accomplished people, models and all sorts of people from all different walks. There was Greeks mixed with Spanish, mixed with Norwegian. There was every nationality.
I think that's the beauty of the latest trilogy is that it's the most diverse Star Wars yet. And the fact that I've been a Star Wars fan for 40 years now, so that's showing my age a little bit. However, to have so many females in it has been a joy for me, and the latest trilogy has been superb. The fact that I saw that there was a female resistance pilot today was coming up, I was like, I must chat to her. Those sorts of things, when I was a little girl, didn't really exist.
No.
That was Carrie Fisher and who played Princess Leia, and that was it. But now we've got yourself, we've got another person that we know, Samantha Alaline, who is the first female stormtrooper, and she also played a resistant pilot in Rise of Skywalker, and it's just lovely to see that representation that we didn't necessarily see in the past, but it's just lovely. So for you were running around. Did you ever get to sit in an X-wing or in a ship?
Oh, I did, absolutely. But can I just say, first of all, Samantha was wonderful. She was such a good friend to me. She talked me through all sorts of different things, and she absolutely made a friend in me. And I was so blessed because she's 6 foot, she's stunningly pretty, and she's a model. So
she's
to think that she could fit into that costume, that stormtrooper's outfit, alongside, well, let's be honest, Ed Sheeran and Prince Harry were there, weren't they?
Exactly.
At some point. But Samantha, that year, that episode was with me and another Rebel pilot, and we were actually photographed together at the end after the celebrations, looking worse for wear, but back to back, sort of mother and daughter. Maybe mentor.
Could this be a spin-off series? Could we? Maybe we should get Disney Plus on the case for you and Sam to do a veteran and junior pilot series on Disney Plus. Maybe we should put that forward for them. What do you think?
I think that's a wonderful idea.
I'll get on I'll message Sam this afternoon and tell her I've been chatting to you and we're going to get that sorted and put it forward to Disney.
That's great.
So, what was your experience like when you got into the cockpits of any of the planes?
I was very lucky. I was asked of all the ladies, all the pilots, female pilots, I was asked to get in to start her up.
Oh, do you know what? That just makes me tingle. As a Star Wars fan, that would be my dream come true.
Perfect, but it didn't get in the final cut. I got to meet the lovely Carrie's daughter, though.
Billy Lord.
Yeah, I got to meet Billy, and she was very, very sweet and shook my hand, and she was just a pleasure. She was just a delight. Everybody was.
Yeah.
You know.
And JJ, did you ever get to
Yeah,
chat
we
to
spoke
him?
to him. Everybody spoke to him as well. He was made himself very available.
I was going to say, I've heard that he's very hands-on.
Yeah.
He goes and chats to everybody.
Yeah.
He's not standoffish.
Everybody spoke. Everybody. If you look at the special, the trailer, Chewie's taken off his helmet at one stage, and he's holding up his real-life baby, who's looks to be about 6 months old, if that.
Yeah.
He's holding up the baby, and I'm standing there grinning because really he is 7 foot tall. He really, really is.
And if you're 5'5", you know, you're definitely looking up, aren't you?
Yes, and check out the trailer if you can find it.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for taking the time out today from your signings. This is your first signing, I believe.
It is indeed.
Don't be nervous. Star Wars fans are lovely. And we'll look after you. Now you're in our fandom, you're in our care.
Oh, thank you very much.
And may the Force be with you.
Oh, absolutely.
In The Return of the Jedi, there were 3 female extras. One makes the cut.
And when she makes the cut,
of that,
her voice is dubbed over by a man.
Correct. So actually, I didn't realise that pilot in The Return of the Jedi was a woman. It's an interesting one, isn't it, really? So that pilot was, and forgive me if I do this wrong to people who do know her name, Doravio Bold. And the actress was Vivian Chandler, and her voice got dubbed out. The second pilot, who didn't make the cut, was Scylla Cott, and that was played by an actress called Poppy Hans. And the interesting thing about her, and we don't get to see about this until the making of The Return of the Jedi, Scylla Cott's helmet was actually used in A New Hope, and it was the blast shield helmet that Luke used in Star Wars when he was given his lightsaber to do training on the Millennium Falcon.
But it is also a bit interesting because when these women were filmed as the pilots, the reason we know it is, of course, that we have seen footage from behind the scenes and some of it that was on the cutting floor, but they're not wearing any makeup because when we finally get a female pilot, which is, of course, Bravo 5 or Dini Elberger in episode 1, she's the one wearing makeup in battle when the men are not. That was something I remember sitting there like, okay, so typical. The one woman in the cockpit, she's the one who's going into battle with full-on makeup. Unlike
of course
the men.
she is. She has her full face on to sort out the evilness of the world.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it.
You have to look good while defeating the Trade Federation.
Absolutely. And isn't really until the later films and the cartoons and the comics, to be fair as well, where female representation on fighter pilots comes into it. So
the expanded universe have been a lot better. I mean, there you had all throughout the 90s with the X-Wing series, you had so many interesting female pilots. You have them in the games, you have them there. But it took a while for them to reach the big screen. But now, of course, with the sequels, we finally get pilots that you can see, not just like a cameo. They actually get lines. You actually see them doing a lot more flying than they used to do. And, of course, there you have Jess Pava as one of the X-Wing pilots.
Hi, this is Julie Dolan, the voice of Princess Leia, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks. It's your only hope.
Johanna, who do you sort of class as your top female pilot?
For me, it's pretty simple, really, and it's Shara Bay. A good example of a pilot that's not on screen in Return of the Jedi, but then Expanded Universe came and put her there as an A-Wing pilot who actually does a run on the Death Star and survives. Then she goes on to fight with the Alliance. Of course, maybe she's most famous because she's actually the mother of Poe Dameron. So, I mean, she taught her son to fly very well, but I really love A-Wing. So, of course, my favorite pilot is an A-Wing pilot who was there on the Death Star.
the fact that she's been included in quite a lot of comics. She was in the Shattered Empire series, and her story seems to come to life. And then you kind of understand where Poe Dameron comes from, really, don't you?
Yes, you do. And it's really also all the choices. And it's like, she's not staying at home, like being a at-home mom for Poe. She's actually out there fighting, because there are some fights that needs to be fought. And she continues to be a really good pilot, first for the Rebellion and then for the Republic. So yeah, I really like her. When I was playing the X-Wing miniature games, I didn't really play a lot of it, but I always made sure to like play her if I could, because I like playing A-Wings. They were rubbish in the game. I wasn't particularly good at playing it either, but I really like using her.
For me, the obvious one that I know about is Hera Syndulla, and that's because I've watched all the Rebel series. For me, she was the leader of the Ghost and the crew, and she was quietly working away to try and defeat the Empire. The whole storyline of her throughout, it was brilliant. I know it's a cartoon. I know it's not something that not everybody has seen, but actually what made me happy was because I didn't know after Rebels finished where she was ended. But the best bit for me was seeing the clip of the Ghost in The Rise of Skywalker. That was just like oh, yes, she made it through.
Yeah, I was thinking about it because, I mean, you also have in Rogue One when they're calling out for General Syndulla.
Yes, of course, that's right, yes. You know that she's there at that
but you don't know if she survived. And I mean, not a lot of people survived.
No,
but that's also a film. I mean, I think that's the reason why we know of these female pilots from Return of the Jedi, because they were cut into the film in Rogue One. They used the footage. So that's when it actually showed up that, hey, they had a lot of footage of Rebel pilots who were women, and they got some place to be in Rogue One.
And I think that's credit to Gareth Edwards for being sensitive and putting that into place.
They probably survived the Battle of Endor, but they probably did not survive when they were put into the film.
No. So for me, I would say Hera Syndulla, a great pilot, the great sort of story thread through it, an incredible leader, clearly. Got to hear her voice being mentioned in Rogue One, and then obviously we see the Ghost in The Rise of Skywalker, so clearly is still kicking around, doing her thing. That makes me quite happy.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
Let's try and focus on some lesser known pilots. We can't go amiss without mentioning Granny Pilot.
Nope.
So for those who don't know, as we mentioned earlier, there were 3 in the original trilogy. There was Dorivo Bold, Sillacott, and then there was the Granny Pilot. That's her nickname, bless her. We know nothing about her.
No.
Other than she wasn't wearing makeup, I have to say.
No.
She looked a bit haggard.
Yes.
But if you were being sent off to destroy the Death Star, that would be one. So that could be maybe a cosplay for me 5 or 6 years' time when I decide to go completely grey.
And I will say that you can complain that maybe there haven't been a lot of women as pilots and the gender issues with that, but at least there isn't a lot of ageisms, because quite a few of the pilots are actually definitely middle-aged or maybe older. It's not just the young, sexy pilots going flying the ships.
Exactly. Makes me feel a lot better about myself, I'm not going to lie. Probably when I was younger, I probably didn't really think about it, but now I'm that woman of a certain age, I think I do think about it a bit more. So, I
think you could do, because I have a middle-aged pilot who's blonde. Maybe you should do that as another favorite. And that's, of course, because I love the Battle of Scarif and Rogue One. And there you have Blue 3, Geraldine Jerams. I don't really know much more than the fact that she's flying in the Battle of Scarif. It's the best Star Wars battle of them all. So I like that she's there. And I like A-Wings, but the Blue Squadron pilots have my favorite costumes.
To be fair, Rogue One, full stop for me, is my favourite film out of all the new films that we've had. It just captured everything that I needed it to capture. And as you say, with all the female pilots. But I'm going to move away from films and comics, and I'm going to go for Greer Sonnell. And I don't know whether you've read Bloodline or not yet. Claudia Gray's book. Yeah. Absolutely superb. In it is Greer. She's Leia's personal pilot. So, of course, Planet Leia had to get something in with the Leia, didn't I? She helps Leia to uncover the conspiracy that threatens to destroy everything. And she comes across as quite a tough cookie, quite strategic, and is sort of Leia's chief of staff and helps her to sort of do the things that Leia shouldn't have been doing, helps her to get there. Apparently, she has a fatal condition called blood burn, which is something that happens a lot in pilots in the Star Wars universe. Even though she has that, she carries on and helps Leia and is one of her most trusted allies. Well, I just love Claudia Gray's portrayal of Leia anyway, and the fact that she was clever enough to put front and center with her this pilot to help her to bring on what becomes the resistance is great. The beauty of the Star Wars universe, as we always keep talking about, is it's wide ranging.
There's so much, yes.
And we do tend to forget about it, really. We see her in the book, but then we don't see her again. So for me, you know, she's another great one.
If there is one I also like her, but it's only because I actually don't like her. And it's the thing, as I said, I used to play X-Wing, the miniature games, and I just never could defeat the Imperial pilot that just had the name of Duchess. So I assumed that was a female pilot.
You would like to assume so in that name, yeah?
Yeah, I always thought it was a female pilot, but I just couldn't beat her.
And why was that? Was there, explain to people how you play the game.
It's a miniature game where you have your little plastic ships and you have a board. And basically it's a flat map. You use different kinds of dials and dice in order to maneuver your ships around. And then you shoot also with the dials and dice. I wasn't good at it. Let's just put it that. And as soon as there were any like TIE fighters or regular TIE fighters, but the Duchess is a TIE striker, which is from Rogue One, or a TIE interceptor, I just could never defeat them because they were so agile and they could just do anything they wanted. They could fly around me like anything. So, and Duchess was one of those pilots. If she wasn't there on the board, I knew that I would just get pummeled.
I'm impressed that you had the patience to play those games. I really wanted to, because there's a whole sort of system behind it and like a network behind it. And it always seemed to be such great fun and good crack. But I just couldn't.
I think that was the thing, though. Like, at least the people I played with, they liked Star Wars, of course, but they were much more from a gaming background, like tactical, strategic games. I was there because, hey, I can play my favorite Star Wars starships. I can play, and I was like, did you know that this pilot did this and this? Which also meant that I usually chose pilots and ships that were not really competitive because I thought it was fun. I can fly the Millennium Falcon. Of course, I want to have Chewbacca on board. Okay, maybe it's not the best pilot because his abilities weren't that good, but much more fun than playing something else. So yeah, I actually once flew with the Rogue Squadron I had Biggs, Wes Jansen, Wedge Antilles, and I didn't have a chance. But
how did that work out for you?
Not at all. I have all the chips and I have a map. We can definitely set it up and play for fun sometime.
Well, I definitely want to come over to Sweden again soon. So, yeah, now that travel has opened up, I'm definitely going to head over and see you guys. So, yes, we'll get it out because I'll be the same. I'll just choose all things like, I want to do this and I want to do that. And then I'll be absolutely rubbish at it. And then I'll just drink gin and it'll be fine.
Hi, this is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Let's talk about, I suppose, the most famous female pilot from Star Wars Battlefront 2, and that's Iden Versio. She was an Imperial TIE fighter pilot who was assigned to a special commando team called the Inferno Squad. And I believe that there's a spin-off of comics after the destruction of the Death Star. Yes, you can read about it in Christy Golden's Star Wars Battlefront 2 Inferno Squad. The game story mode follows her and her squad defection to the rebellion after the Endor. More than that, she's a great pilot and we get to see her in gameplay and cutscenes. Nice to see a female pilot front and centre and a bit of a defector, turns to one side rather than the other.
When the game was released, there was backlash against, oh, it's so unreal that there's a female pilot and whatever she did. So unfortunately, there are still quite a lot of people out there who have a hard time seeing a female like action hero and a female lead in a battle game.
If anybody has played it, and I know I have played it simply through my friend's console, they got me to a certain point in it because they're really good at it. And then I had to go, it's brilliant. I really enjoyed playing it. Finally, I found this lesser known character called Ketsu Onyo, and they're from Rebels. She helped Sabine escape from the Imperial Academy of Mandalore and opened up her life to being a rebel. Apparently, they were bounty hunter partners together for a while, even tried to kill Sabine, but that obviously didn't happen. And Sabine goes on to be one of the biggest characters in this sort of other
another female pilot.
Absolutely. Another female pilot, and produces it together. And I just think again that the diversity of the medium of Star Wars and the cartoons, I really, really enjoyed that series. It was really good fun. Ketsu then was in her ship, the Shadowcaster, then aided the elite Phoenix Squadron and the crew of the Ghost. And so we took another hard look at Rogue One. We might find that Shadowcaster in amongst them, and then we'll have to try and find out whether she survived or not. But here's us talking about all these female characters and all these female pilots. And I know, Johanna, you have your own pilot outfit.
Yeah, I actually have two of them. So I have an A-Wing costume and an X-Wing pilot costume.
So which one would you prefer to troop in?
Something has happened with the A-Wing costume. It must have shrunk in the wardrobe or something because I can't wear it anymore. But I prefer that to the X-Wing costume. But the thing is, at a convention, people know that Star Wars pilots are orange. They didn't recognize me as a Star Wars pilot when I was wearing green because the A-Wing pilots are green. So I felt like I needed a pilot costume that was more like recognizable, like, hey, it's a Star Wars costume. So I still enjoy the green one better. I really like my A-Wing helmet. I think my X-Wing helmet is probably the one I've gotten better at painting, so I still like it. But my A-Wing helmet, I actually had my mother paint like the traditional flora motifs from the folk art here in the region. So I have that.
Nice. So when you have them on the sides, that's a little bit of home.
It could be like some kind of Naboo ornamentation. It does fit in, but I know that it's actually folk art.
Well, that's brilliant. And so then that leads me quite nicely on to, if you were to fly a ship in the Star Wars universe, then I think we all know your answer to this one.
Yes,
go on.
I might have mentioned it. Yes, I love A-Wings. I might have a little shrine to A-Wings in my living room. So yes, A-Wing. But I have a good second favorite in the Naboo Starfighter. And I will say, when I watch Boba Fett, it's like, I think my loudest squeal in the whole series was when actually you got the Naboo Starfighter.
It's just a really sleek looking machine, isn't it? It's
so beautiful.
I'm torn between two. For me, it's either got to be X-Wing or the fastest heap of junk in the galaxy. And I cannot wait to get to Galaxy's Edge and jump in that cockpit and fly that. The Millennium Falcon for me is definitely the ship I want to fly. If anything, it was the front and center and has been the front and center of all the trilogies in that sense. And I know it's changed over time. It was really interesting in Solo to see that it had the indent at the front, that actually that was a ship within a ship. And the fact that the Falcon is actually computer chip is a female.
Yeah, of course it is.
For me, that's perfect. She's a stubborn mule, probably verging on the menopausal side. So, I'll take that and I'll fly that heap of junk.
When you know that she's, who's actually running Millennium Falcon's computer, you totally understand why Han is having some problems with the ship from time to time.
Well, really, the reason why Han's having problems with it is because she doesn't love him as much as she loved Lando. There was definitely something going on there that we didn't know about. And then when they had to put it in to try and get it going again, she's not going to do anything that she wants not to do herself.
No. She doesn't like when people are doing totally foolish stuff. She can do foolish stuff herself, but she probably doesn't like when other people are doing it.
When I get to Galaxy's Edge, I'm still not 100% sure about Star Cruiser, which of course is a female captain. I'm still not 100% sure about whether I'll be going or not on it.
For me, the Star Cruiser is so out of my league, like money-wise, I haven't even really entertained the idea because I know that I will never like being able to justify the cost for it. So, nah.
I'm not going to lie. So ever since it was announced, I have been saving desperately for it. And I really wanted to try it. But having seen the previews, I'm not so fussed now. I think I might spend that money on a lot of other stuff.
More trips to Galaxy's Edge without the Star Cruiser.
Correct. I'm not so sure I want to spend a whole day inside, with plastic glass, pretending to be in a Star Cruiser. I'm not 100% sure whether I'm quite there or not. But just to say that the female captain of the Star Cruiser is called Captain Kievan. She looks like Thrawn, so she's either a Pantornian or Chiss. We've got a female captain on that ship. I'm quite pleased to say that. It really
shows, that Star Wars has kept up with the times. Going from no female pilots at all, or cutting them away in the original trilogy. It's not hard finding them because they are just as common as male pilots and alien pilots.
Yeah.
Because, to be honest, we don't know all the aliens. Probably all the species don't have a binary female-male system. There are probably a lot of other genders and sexes for them as well, so we can't say about the alien pilots if we know if they are male or female.
Exactly, and I think that's quite good. I don't know whether you remember or not the arcade games. There was the TIE fighter pilot game, and you had the joystick. Maybe it wasn't out in Sweden, but I do remember Andrew Walker, our mutual friend, going to Spring Hill Shopping Centre and wasting a hell of a lot of money on that arcade game. Of course, she made you feel like you were a pilot. I think that draws to an end our little chat about female pilots. You are listening and you have a favourite female pilot or non-binary. It can be any alien pilot, as we say. Let us know and see if you agree or not with this. Maybe we've missed some out. We've had some great fun chatting about Star Wars again, haven't we, Johanna?
Yes, we have.
I'd like to say a big thank you to the guys at CovCon and particularly Matthew Rose for allowing me to speak to Liz, because she was the person that triggered this whole debate about it, and really thankful to her for chatting to us on Planet Leia. And it was an exclusive. That was her first podcast interview that she'd done as well. Thank you very much for listening to Planet Leia. If you want to be part of the action and stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, why not visit FanthaTracks.com or check out the free Fantha Tracks app through the App Store on your phone. You can reach out to us and send in your questions, radio@FanthaTracks.com. Comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds at Fantha Tracks, and be sure to subscribe and leave a review, preferably, of course, a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of your choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Fantha Tracks intro and our Planet Leia opening music, and to Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Remember to tune in to Good Morning Tatooine, which started back up again last Sunday, live on Sunday evenings at 9 o'clock UK time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, and it's on Facebook and YouTube. Check out Fantha Tracks Radio on Fridays at 7 p.m. UK for new episodes of Fantha from Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines and Cannon Fodder. And tune in every Tuesday 7 p.m. UK time for your weekly episode of Making Tracks. As for now, thanks for listening to us. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon. May the Force be with you.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Desert Planet Discs.
Sorry.
My Little Pony. Listeners, we interrupt this broadcast for a My Little Pony.
Let's start over.
Oh, let's keep that bit in and embarrass you that you have a My Little Pony ringtone.
I will tell you, when you're at a Comic-Con or anything else, or trooping with the garrison or signals, you don't know whose phone is ringing, and then I hear my phone, I'm like, yes, that's mine.